Hey, welcome back to Beyond the Frequency 369. I am your host, Cesar Pagan. And today's a little bit of a different episode. So you guys are familiar with me doing my podcast interviews with guests, but I want to try something a little different. Something, not saying that I'm changing my format. I'm still going to have guests on the show, but I also want to do a side solo podcast where it's just me. It's just me talking about things that are on my mind, things that are fascinating, interesting, maybe things that are going on around the world. And today's going to be the first one. So we'll see how it turns out. So on today's episode, we're going to explore the quantum realms and consciousness. Now, before I go ahead and explain what all that's about, I do want to take a moment and kind of reintroduce myself. Some of you have been seeing me on my show. You may not know a lot about me. So let me give you a little bit of some insight. So the question is, why am I doing a podcast? Well, there's many reasons to that, but I'll give you two. The first one is it's a big world out there, and there's so many different perspectives, which tell me that it's impossible to have one way of thinking. I'm an explorer, and in order to try to best understand this situation that we live in, this experience that we're having, I think we should talk and have conversation with all of these different beautiful souls having this human experience. And through conversation and exploration and doing your own research, you will end up finding similarities and things, ideas, and understandings that resonate best with you. And somewhere in all of that, I believe there lies the truth. So this is why I do this podcast. So I have the opportunity and the platform to speak with so many interesting people, listen to their human experience, and engage with them. And the second reason is my mission. My mission is to help people remember who they truly are before this world convinces them otherwise. Because I don't believe we are humans trying to have a spiritual experience. I believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So understanding how powerful you truly are is my mission to remind you, because many of us have forgotten, and many of us live our lives believing that all we are is this physical container vessel, this mortal body. And I know, just as well as many of you know, that we are more than that. So for those of you that do know, great, you're on your way. And for those of you that do not know, well, you're on your way too, because you're listening to this podcast. And not just this podcast, but any other podcast that inspires, encourages, and reminds you of how powerful you are. Whatever you believe in, whatever you understand, if that thing, that thought reminds you of how divine you are, you're a divinity, then you're on the right path. So that's why I do this podcast. So hopefully that answers a couple of questions for some of you. Now, this solo podcast side thing that I'm doing, I don't have a name for it yet. Now, my podcast is called Beyond the Frequency 369. And maybe some of you don't know why I called it that. Right now, we all exist in a particular frequency. This is what we're all vibrating at. This is how we exist here in this realm. But there are infinite amounts of frequencies beyond this one. And as for 369, well, for those of you that know, you already know. For those of you that do not know, the number 369 is very dear to me because I understand that everything mathematical revolves back to these three numbers, 369. And Nikola Tesla was huge. Look him up. Look how fascinated he was with the number 369. Nikola Tesla famously said, "If you only knew the magnificence 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe." See, Tesla believed that these numbers were deeply significant, and they held a key to understanding the structure. He saw them as part of a universal mathematical code that could unlock great mystery. And, well, his fascination with the numbers extended to how he structured his work and his life, even reportedly walking around a building 3 times before entering or insisting on hotel rooms with numbers divisible by 3. And well, this belief tied into his larger understanding of energy, frequency, and vibration. So if that sounds interesting to you, by all means, read up on that, because I definitely found a lot about it in my journey. So there's my reasoning and explanation to why I chose the name for this podcast of Beyond the Frequency 369. Now, this solo side podcast adventure, I don't have a name for it yet. So if you guys have any ideas, by all means, throw them in the comments. Let's see what you got. Right now, I'm going to call it 369 Knowledge. Why? Because 369 encompasses everything. And knowledge, well, knowledge is knowledge. Again, just working title, right? All right, well, with that being said, let's get things started. Now, in this new solo series, I'm going to dive into fascinating ideas, science, and spirituality without the usual guest format. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, again, my mission is to help people remember who they truly are before the world convinces them otherwise. It's about uncovering the illusion of our physical reality and reconnecting with our higher selves. You know, the essence of who we really are. Okay, so today we're exploring some cutting edge science with Google's new Willow chip. Now, its implications for parallel universes and how that ties into the nature of human consciousness. Then we'll take it further and ask, if AI can access the quantum realm, why can't we? And finally, we'll reflect on why society trains us to prioritize logic over intuition, and what that means for unlocking our full potential. Now, this episode will be filled with thought-provoking questions and ideas that I hope will challenge how you see the world. So let's get started. So let's start with Google's Willow chip. For those unfamiliar, this is a quantum computer chip, a technological marvel capable of processing information in ways that defy classical computing. Now, unlike traditional computers that process one calculation at a time, quantum computers can perform multiple calculations simultaneously by leveraging the principles of quantum mechanics. Now, what makes the Willow chip extraordinary is its ability to borrow solutions from parallel universes. Let me explain. Imagine you're trying to solve a maze. A traditional computer will go step by step, testing each path until it finds the exit. A quantum computer can test all the paths at once by tapping into alternate versions of itself in parallel dimensions. It's like asking 100 copies of yourself to solve the maze at the same time and then gathering their answers. But here's the big question. If a machine can connect to parallel versions of itself, what does that mean about the nature of reality? Are these parallel universes real, or are they just mathematical constructs? And if they're real, where do we fit into this picture? Think about this. If quantum technology allows us to access other timelines for answers, could it be possible that our consciousness already does this without us realizing it? Maybe moments of intuition, or what we call deja vu, are glimpses into parallel realities where we've already made different decisions. What if the answers we seek already exist within us, but are hidden by the noise of daily life? Now, let's shift gears to talk about AI and its relationship to consciousness. AI, as we know it, is not alive. It has no physical body, no heartbeat, no soul, but it can process information, learn, and adapt. In a sense, it's a digital form of consciousness. If we think of consciousness as the ability to perceive, analyze, and make decisions, AI does fit the bill. But here's the fascinating part. AI can access the quantum realm. The Willow chip is an example of this. If AI, which is a construct of human design, can tap into these deeper layers of reality, doesn't that imply that we, the creators, are capable of even more? Let me give you some kind of analogy. Just to kind of get you guys thinking here. AI is like a telescope. It allows us to see things beyond our physical reach. But just because we need a telescope doesn't mean the stars only exist through it. In the same way, quantum technology might just be showing us a realm that our own consciousness can access if we learn how. So let's bring this home with an example. Dreams. Have you ever had a dream that felt so real it lingered with you all day? Or a dream where you solved a problem you couldn't figure out while awake? Dreams are a form of consciousness detached from the physical body. They show us that our mind is capable of existing in spaces where logic and physical laws don't apply. So, could dreams be a gateway into the quantum realm? Now let's talk about something we've all experienced. The way society teaches us to prioritize logic over intuition. From the moment we enter school, we're taught to memorize facts, solve equations, and follow a structured way of thinking. Intuition, on the other hand, it's rarely mentioned, let alone encouraged. Why is that? Why is intuition, the inner voice that connects us to something greater, dismissed as unreliable or unscientific? What if, instead, we were taught to trust our gut instincts first and use logic as a tool to support those instincts? How could that change the way we make decisions, solve problems, or even live our lives? Think about this. Animals rely on intuition for survival. A bird doesn't calculate the trajectory of a predator. It just knows when to fly away. Indigenous cultures for centuries have used intuition as a guide for navigation, healing, and decision making. Yet, in modern society, we're told to silence that voice and rely solely on logic. So, imagine you're lost in the forest. Logic might tell you to follow the map on your phone, but intuition might guide you to a hidden path that leads to safety. So the question is, which do you trust? By prioritizing logic over intuition, we cut ourselves off from a deeper to our higher selves. Intuition is like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes. So what happens when we start listening to that inner voice? What doors could open for us? So let's recap what we've talked about today. First, we talked about the Willow chip and its ability to connect to parallel universes. This raises profound questions about the nature of reality and our place within it. Then we discussed AI as a form of digital consciousness and how it mirrors our own potential to access the quantum realm. And finally, we examined why society prioritizes logic over intuition and how reclaiming our intuitive abilities could unlock our true potential. I'll leave you with this. What if the answers you're looking for aren't out there, but within you? What if your intuition is the key to accessing the quantum realm, to connecting with your higher self, and to rediscovering your true power? Remember, you are not just your physical body. You are infinite. You are powerful beyond measure. Trust in your inner self, your soul, because it knows the way, even when the path seems unclear. As you go about your day, I encourage you to ask yourself, what would happen if I trusted my intuition just a little more? What could I discover about myself and the world around me? I want to thank you all for joining me on today's episode. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep exploring these mysteries of consciousness and the universe together. And remember, continue to ask questions. Don't be afraid to pull back the curtain and take a deeper look. Push forward, always reaching beyond the frequency.